you can make anything a home. You can make the shed a home. You can do anything to make a home out of it. It's a set of mindset values that you bring to it and how you respect it, treat it, and value it. And so it's not about the flashiest building. It's about having the connection with the things that make the difference to your emotional state.
G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Level Up. We are back in the shed this afternoon for an absolute cracker. I am absolutely stoked about this one because it's one that's really come up out of the blue. The particular person we've got on for you today messaged me through Instagram probably a bit over a month ago. I messaged him straight back because of what his message said, and basically we spent the next hour and a half on the phone chewing each other's ear off, and fast forward a few weeks and he's straight on the podcast. So I won't give too much away, but his hobby is a single malt scotch, which he's bought a bottle along, and we're going to be sipping on through this episode. Skiing, surfing, hiking, so definitely a cool guy. Won a heap of design building awards. Featured on Australia's Best Houses with Megan Gale. He's actually designed houses in New Zealand, England and France. And something I really want to deep dive into is he actually has a process which he calls his design magic process, a land whispering process, and an emotional floor plan process to get on the same page as the clients. The emotional floor plan process he's going to explain to us is a very cool, and it really unravels the process and gives the clients, or gets everyone on the same page. So massive warm welcome to Adrian Ramsey. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, buddy. Thanks so much for having me here.
Sorry, mate, it was a big intro. It was a fair bit to get through there.
I was wondering who you were talking about.
And I didn't even get through the parts that I wanted to, which was over 90% of the homes that you have designed have actually followed through and been built, which is huge.
Yep.
Because so many, as we all know in the industry, so many designs end up scrapped in the bin. Clients get the shits, hate the process, walk away, go and buy something. You know all the stories. So we got a lot to talk about. Because music, drinking, partying, good times. Traveling, studying, so
exploring.
Let's get stuck into it. So tell me a little bit more about your process.
So to getting the process right has always been my biggest frustration, and I'm a high-end creative, ADHD, all those kind of things. So I'm not a guy who likes to actually run down a straight line. Are you diagnosed? No. Well,
you're like me.
Yeah,
I know I'd be diagnosed. I went and got tested, but
yeah. I've been told plenty of times by professionals, but never actually had the diagnostic run.
Sorry to cut you off before you get into this, but I find this very interesting because I believe there's a few types of people that deal with this in different ways. So number one, you think you've got it, you get diagnosed, you start taking medication.
Yeah, no.
My preferred way of dealing with it is I believe I use it to my advantage. That's what adds my flair, my creativity. I manage it, and it's got me to where I am.
I'm 100% with you. I'm dyslexic as well.
Yep.
So reading and writing is not my high-end skill.
Mate, we're going to get on like a house on fire.
Communication verbally is much higher.
Yeah.
But ADHD is just like strapping a turbocharger on an already, spinning engine. If you can focus it, you can achieve incredible things with it. And it takes effort every day to focus it.
Yeah.
But with it, as I say, it's like being able to throw a turbocharger on. You can energize most people.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that could be incredibly creative, but they depress it with drugs and medication and stuff. Like there's other ways.
We just use scotch. No.
Well, I'm not a big scotch drinker. I like me bourbon, but this is tasting all right.
Tastes all right. I'm like you. I go look at how you would manage it if you didn't have drugs. And I'm not saying anything against the medical industry. Drugs are one solution, but we were talking earlier about ice baths and saunas and doing self-management, mindset, body management, those kinds of things. If you haven't given all those things a go as a way of managing it, and like ADHD is often managed not easily, managed with exercise because it fidget spinners and things.
Yeah.
This thing here keeps this busy. It's like you can't stop shaking your foot because you've got the energy going. But if you stop shaking your foot, then you lose that focus. Yeah. So this rhythm of something happening gives you the ability to keep pouring forward.
Mate, I love it.
Mate,
I love it.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
I think
100%.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Like everyone treats it negatively. Like it's a gift.
It's a gift.
Use
Harness it. Yep.
Like it's a power. Like it's a superpower.
Yep. I'm 100%. Same with dyslexia.
Yeah.
I did a talk for, it's like Ignite which is, anyway, like Ignite speeches. And I did it on the gift of dyslexia. And a lot of people were like, oh, you poor thing. I'm like, hell no. This is what's given me all the energy to come this far.
Mate, I wish I had have had this mindset a long time ago, because with this, like I know I've got that as well, and I think for such a long time, and I don't know if it's society or the way we're brought up or schools or whatever, there's this one size fits all things. Like I was going down the path of it's me, like there's something wrong with me, like whereas I should have been being a bit more open minded about it and using it to my advantage. But and I'm quite open about it now. Like I put it out there all over my socials. Like I don't read, I listen to Audible. Like
Yep.
And I can't spell to save my life, but it doesn't mean I've managed to get to where I am and be very successful.
Just doing what you do.
Doing what I do.
And managing it. Again, it's...
everybody's different.
Yeah.
Like
you think of anything that happens in life, for the first time, it's custom, and you've got to manage that situation. And whether it works or not, how successfully it works is going to be the learning of when you do it again and again and again. So once we've learnt to drive the car, we do it on automatic, But the first time, we were just like everybody else, absolutely uptight about it. So being dyslexic or being ADHD and harnessing it as a gift is a management skill. And it's a thing that you can use as a platform of knowing that you can find your way. Like being dyslexic, I think it's like less than 1 in 10 people are dyslexic, and there's various different strains of how they see the world. But that means that 1 in every 10 is going to be thinking very differently from the other people in the room. And I've always worked in the creative industry. I've always designed something. And I'd be sitting in big meetings and stuff, and people would say, this in corporate world, would say, oh, well, Adrian, he's that uber creative guy. What's he got to say? I don't think I'm creative. I'm having trouble keeping up with the conversation. But I'm not hearing it the way they're hearing it. Yeah. I'm not seeing it the way they're seeing it.
Yeah.
And so they think I'm creative because I can't see what they can see. They think I can see that and I can add this. It's bullshit. I can just add this because I can't see what they can see.
Yeah.
And that's the part that unlocks all their thinking at the same time. And then we get to really move.
Yeah. Mate, that's powerful. Like, what a fucking good start to the podcast. We're off topic. We haven't talked about your process yet, but
better get on to dyslexia.
Oh, mate, it is. It's a superpower, and you got to. I don't know. We could go on all night about that. I don't agree with a lot of things that are happening in the world at the moment, but you've got to understand who you are. Like, I'm actually glad we've gone this way, because I think it's a powerful thing, and it'll help a lot of people that listen. Like, just because you're born into a certain family does not mean, and you're brought up a certain way, and you're taught certain things, and you're told you're a certain thing, or you've got a certain something, does not mean that's who you are. Like, I think the most powerful thing they could ever teach in school is find yourself. Yeah.
But people are struggling to do that most of their lives.
Yeah.
And I certainly have struggled with it in my life. Like, who should I be versus who am I?
Yeah.
And, even in growing up, like the family expectation, the teacher expectation, my teachers just expected me to be a little shit. Yeah. So that wasn't the end of the world. Once they got the expectation, I fulfilled it, and we just went on a merry path. But, even like working in corporates and things like that, I would rely on my ability to see things differently and my creative power to either help them or undo them, one or the other, just depended on where my mood was at. And I spent a lot of years angry at the rest of the world because it didn't allow for me, because it was saying that I was the broken cog. And that took me a lot to get to being comfortable with being a cog that spun differently from the others.
Mate, I think you've just answered the first, like, why I'm where I am now. Like, I was exactly the same. Like, I was so angry and frustrated with, I was blaming everyone for everything that was happening to me. And in the end of the day, I just had to find who I was.
Yeah. And then there's nobody to blame. It's just, And then when you turn the table, I heard this the other day. Somebody was saying, instead of saying, I have to go to work today, I have to go and record this podcast, I have to go and see that client, I have to, pick up the washing or whatever it is, say, I get to go to work today. There's a privilege.
Yeah.
I get to record a podcast. I get to do the washing.
I get to pick up the kids.
100%.
I get
How
to meet
about
a
getting
new
the responsibility? I get to, because it's me. And finding the gratitude and the fact that I can do all those things. There's plenty of people who can't, and there's plenty of people who could, but can't because of their mindset. And I go, man, every time I'm like below the line behavior, for looking for the excuse and all the rest, I go, whoa, what am I getting to do to elevate that? But it's a daily struggle.
Mate, I'm hearing you. And look, I put it out there on my socials now. I'm quite open with it. Like I quite often will do a story, say that it's been, like, I call them my demons. Like every day I have to convince myself of something that I think I'm maybe not good enough to be doing, or I shouldn't be doing, or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But mate, we could end this podcast now. It's already been bloody heap of value.
We'll start a new one.
But mate, that is such powerful stuff, and words. I'm a huge fan of words. I think words are very powerful, and the way you just explain that, changing the word to get in front of things is massively powerful. But like you just said before that because I could give you 100 examples of this where, like, I'm the same. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm sitting in front of my. Like, I think
Me too.
This is why we had such a good phone conversation. Like, I actually had a conversation the other day with a business partner, and like, I don't know. We both thought we were saying the same things, but we weren't really getting each other. And I think what you just said, like, I can, and like I've had emails from business partners where they've got frustrated and then they've sent emails. Oh, I sent you this months ago. Like, we've already talked about this.
Yeah,
I didn't get it.
Yeah,
like it didn't. The way you wrote it back then didn't click with me.
Yeah,
like I just
pick up the phone.
Oh, mate, I'm a big I think phone calls. I think one of the reasons Live Life Build is so successful is because Amelia and I have 2 scheduled business meetings a week. Each meeting goes for 2 to 3 hours, and we talk. There's a lot of communication through Slack and emails and that.
Sure.
Other times, but we actually sit on Zoom face to face. We talk through everything,
make stuff happen,
and we make stuff happen. But Amelia's a very different person to me. I'm like, we know who we are, we know our strengths and weaknesses, and it just works. Like, it's so powerful.
I think that magic of getting to a point where you know yourself well enough to discover more of yourself as well, and to get comfortable with the bits that you do know, it becomes closer to you putting you in your flow and everything else when you go, hey, I can see my behavior in this manner. I must be stressed then. Not that you might be feeling stressed, or I must be, watch out, I'm hiding from something. Like I go, I'll be putting something off, and I'll go, so why am I procrastinating? Why am I putting it off? What am I scared of? What am I fearful of? Where is it? Is it my ego? Is it my, is it financial? What's the thing that I'm scared is going to happen to me? Is it going to be conflict? What is it going to be? And that's because I don't know how to manage that next thing well enough. So then we all know sooner or later you've got to face face it. You've got to step over. And you usually build it into some massive thing in your head before you step over it. By then it's a confused mess, and
you just create a shitstorm.
Yep. 100%.
And you turn something that could have been dealt with a 5-minute
just
simple.
Hey,
and before you know it, turns into a situation where you've upset the clients, you're not getting paid for something. Like,
yep. 100% get it. Totally get it.
So are you sure you're a designer, mate, or you seem more like a life coach?
My wife's a business coach. Yeah. I think that there's a journey, like one of these things that a good friend of mine, Bruce Campbell from Entrepreneurial Business School, says is look at what somebody spends on their education of them, their mindset and their business or whatever it is. Who are they being coached by? Who's their mentors? Who are they around? Who's lifting them up? Who's making them a better them? Who's calling them on themselves? Who's telling them don't be a wanker? Who's doing all these things that's keeping them in check and growing them? And is that person up here so they're mentoring them as such? And if you look at the amount of money somebody spends on that, you can directly see the amount of growth they have as a human. And I think that
100%.
It's just like, being around people to elevate your conversation and call you on your shit. Because I can make up really good shit that most people would believe, but it doesn't mean it's not shit. So it's this thing. How do you get around people who go, no, I see why you see it that way, but I don't think you're right.
Yeah.
And the more people like that in your life, the more respect you grow for yourself and others.
Yeah, mate, I'm addicted to it. Now that I've, and I think by the sounds that you are as well, like now that I understand who I am, and I do treat my weaknesses as my powers.
Yep.
And I spend a shitload of money on personal development.
Yep.
Everything just falls into place. Like everyone talks about, like, and I think it's I don't know, it's an Australian thing maybe, like the tall poppy syndrome, like they're always lucky or shit's always going right for them. It ain't luck or it ain't going right. Like you have to have paid some money or done a course or done some personal development or done some growth somewhere. And I don't really know how to explain it now, but everything just starts to
align.
The puzzle comes together. Yeah. And everything works.
Yeah. I think I did a lot of growth with marrying my wife, Becky, because she's a coach and she loves calling me on my shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's even got my kids calling me on my shit. She's coached them well as well. I think the thing is there's fear in growth always, of course, until, you know, like it happens to you and you can't stop it and then you just got to work your way out of it. Taking it on like as a part of life's journey is the joy of it, and learning to constantly step up to it and step up to it and step up to it and find higher spots to grow to.
Yeah.
I think that's living to me. That's
100%. Yeah,
living.
Mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's when you, like, I'm not sure about you, but like to me, that's when I feel freedom.
Yep.
Like everything's just going how it needs to go.
I find like, the same sort of thing. Yeah, I get a sense of freedom and a sense of self-power.
Yeah.
Of without getting egotistical, just in being centered. And I find that when I notice things in my life are, that I'm pushing, but I'm not getting a result. I'm pushing, but I'm not, it's not in harmony. And I go, okay, come on, what's in this recipe? Which part of the recipe have I left out? So if I was making bread, if I left out the flour, because am I not doing that bit? I need to add that bit back in now and do that bit and then expect a result. Or if I left off the water, whatever it is, it's a recipe, but recipes only go together in a set order to get the outcome you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so our outcomes are often, I wouldn't say the same all the time. They morph as we grow and learn, but we look at what we want for our outcomes and we've got to look at our recipe and go, why aren't we already there? Or why haven't we got what we're looking for here? What did we need to add in the recipe to put us there? And we have to go back to that step and start adding it and then add it in to get our growth again.
Yeah.
And then, we get to make something. There's ingredients and then there's recipes.
Yeah.
And the recipes.
Everyone's heard me say it. Like my favourite saying I live my life by is Grant Cardone's, nothing happens to you, it happens because of you. And
he's awesome.
Mate, everything in my life, I reflect back to that now. Like,
so it's nothing happens to you.
Nothing happens to you. Everything happens because of you. And so, mate, if I'm having trouble with the kids, or my wife and I have an argument, or I might be in trouble with one of the employees, or I lost a job, or
whatever.
Anything.
Yep.
Like even if something breaks or goes, like, I don't know, my truck or whatever. Like actually we did a boys camping trip. Our annual trip last week.
I saw it on Instagram.
There's a perfect example, mate. The wind come up and completely fucked our gazebo. Twisted it, wrecked it. Completely fucked.
Yeah, should have got a better builder. Yeah.
Mate, it didn't bother me one bit because I knew, like, I'd checked the weather. I knew that Thursday afternoon the wind was going to come up. I knew Friday was going to have these wind squalls, and there was a risk at some point it was going to possibly tear the gazebo that has a big sign on the side of the packet, do not put up in windy conditions. So I can't get the shits about that.
No, it's all your responsibility.
Yeah. I made the decision to put it up knowing it was going to be windy. It's my fault.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think of every single thing in my life like that now. But the other part of that is I also own it. I take responsibility. I can't blame anyone for the gazebo getting fucked up when I put it up knowing that it was going to be a windy day. That's
it. And if you didn't know it was going to be a windy day, then you'd be taking responsibility for not checking the weather forecast.
Yeah.
And, it's this point of taking responsibility, and I look at it from the design process, and we have a responsibility. The minute a client employs us to do something, or even if we're not employed, even if we're going to do it for free for somebody, we have a responsibility to do our best possible work with everything that's within our knowledge and with it at our fingertips to create it, and more if we have to go look for it.
Yeah.
So that's our responsibility because we're prepared to take the job. Now, whether you're paid for the job or not, it's nothing to do with it. It's about the outcome of the job that the person's expecting. And so meeting that expectation or adjusting or educating that expectation so that we can meet it with that client, person, whatever, is the journey of it. But our responsibility is if we're going to help another human, is to do that or the planet, but help another human, is to do that to the absolute best of our knowledge. And, near enough is never going to be good enough.
Yeah.
And it might be... Near enough might be all you're capable of at this time with the knowledge you have. So then you've got to go hunting, or at least get to a point where you recognize that so you can go further.
Yeah.
And usually it takes someone to call you on that.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been called on mine plenty of times.
Oh, mate, me too. Mate, I think this will come back into we'll talk about a lot more of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, can we dive into your process?
Yeah,
because
for sure, absolutely.
I just love even the wording you've put around it.
Yeah, right. So we originally, when I started the business, I reckon probably something like 20-25% of people that would come to me were coming to me with a set of plans in their hand, and they would say, "Can you help me?" And I'd go, "With what? You've got your plans." And they go, "Yeah, look, these plans are, we can't afford to build them." And I'd go, and this was me in my really naive days, I'd go, "Okay, so, well, what happened?" And they'd say, "Oh, we did this, but this, we can't afford to build these. We told the person we had a $200,000 budget, but this is 300, whatever the numbers are, it doesn't matter." And I was like, wow, I don't know that I can help them, but if I can, I can't start with this. So then I went, what fundamentally, and I used to do this at workshops, I'd say to people, what fundamentally is the problem is that the expectation and the dream and the budget don't align, yeah?
Yeah.
And you know what? If your dreams and your budget align, get better dreams. Because you're not dreaming hard enough.
Yeah.
Ask for more than you... And I don't mean more stuff, just ask for better, just ask for more of what you really want, because the money should be in lag behind what that is. Now, it might mean that you don't get what you really want, but be a realist as well about what the value of something is. So I looked at these things and I'd say to them, go back and look at the name on the bottom of it, and I'd go, "Oh yeah, that guy's a designer." Go back and talk to them, and they'd usually tell me they'd burnt their relationship. This was a big red flag to me. And I'd go, "How?" And they'd go, "Oh, well, we asked for this and we've asked for that and we changed this to this and we changed that to that." And I'd go, "So why did you keep changing things?" And they go, "Well, because it started out like this, and then we thought of this, and then this came up, and we thought of this." So design's a process.
Yeah.
The destination is the home at the end of it. Let's just talk homes. Destination's the home at the end of it, but the design is a process, and you're going to take somebody who doesn't know what they don't know, and you're going to put them into a process and expect them to know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you're failing from the start. The other thing, as I was about to say before, at workshops I used to do this, I'd say, on average, everybody in the audience, put your hand up if you think that if somebody designs a product, a house for you, that it's going to cost you 20% more than the budget. The whole bloody room put their hand up. And so I moved it to 30%.
Yeah.
And I'm in the room, I've got like 50, 60 people at a workshop sitting there, and I'm going, put your hand up if you think that it would cost, I might start at 5%, I might go 5% more. All these hands go up. 10% more. Keep your hand up, yep, or put it up when I get to the number. Yep. And I came out of that going, I reckon on average, most people expect a minimum of 20%. So somebody comes to you, I'm going to do it using $1 million because that's just a figure that my dyslexic brain will work with. $200,000, right, is 20%. That means that if you think that if your budget's 1 million, psychologically you're thinking it's 1.2. And let's just say they go, "Yeah, I am, and we could probably go there,
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't solve the problem. Now we need to know, is that a build budget or a project budget? And so these things I'm asking these people, and I'm going, this industry's stuffed. Like,
Mate, it is. No one's setting or working to an expectation.
Everybody's just working to the hopium.
Yeah.
They're on the pipe.
Well, everyone... Like, mate, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, let's just say, so someone wants a 3-bedroom, double garage, 2-bathroom, kitchen, dining, living area home.
Yep.
And they've got a $300,000 budget. They expect it to get built for that. The next one comes in, same 3-bedroom, double garage, exactly the same.
Yep.
They got a $600,000 budget.
Yep.
They expect to get built for that.
Yep.
Like, no one is educating themselves on what they want actually is going to cost. They just come up with the idea of what they want, and then a figure. And generally, the project, we call it project spend. Generally, the project spend is completely based on maximum borrowing capacity, equity in home, inheritance. So they've just
Don't they watch
this,
grand designs?
Yeah, they've got this idea of what they want. They've just plucked this figure out,
yep.
and they just expect the two to work.
Yeah, no, the two have got nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
At this point, they're like, they're not even cousins. They're not even related. They're not even in the same country. And that is whose fault? If you look at the industry, whose fault is that?
It was all of ours.
Yeah, but we've got all these national boards and stuff like that. The construction industry is worth billions of dollars in Australia, and the government is reliant on billions of dollars worth of tax that the construction industry generates, and the jobs and everything else that this thing generates. And I'm not saying it's government's responsibility. I'm saying that it starts at the top as well as at the bottom, that this thing has to be compressed in some point so that there's a common story and a common language.
Yeah.
And it has to be well advertised. It has to be well publicized. It has to be a common conversation so that people don't feel like idiots.
Oh, 100%.
And you're a builder.
I've taken ownership of it, mate, but I take it very, very personally that I need to really get involved and educate people on costs and things. So it's like, it's my responsibility we say project's king. Like with our process, it is our responsibility to get the client the best possible product we can for what they want to spend.
I think that trying to get people into their home is the key of what we're doing. And then this design magic process came out of this seeing that people weren't going to get there. And they found out they couldn't get there. The red flag is that if they were in conflict with somebody, why were they in conflict? Did they need better education? And I probably wasn't that generous with it, but did they need better education? What did they need? How could I get them there? Now, luckily, some poor bugger had gone through the process that hadn't worked, that had actually preconditioned them. It's a bit like, a real estate agent. Give them a few low balls and then we'll see where their price really is. Yeah. So that luckily was like part of what happened. And I'd say to them, well, I've got to start again. And I would start again at that point. And
sorry to cut you off, but do you find it hard to, like, when a client's, we're at a point now in our business where we sort of, if we know a client's tried it before, it's very unlikely that we'll take them on again, because we've just found that the reason has generally been that they haven't listened.
Yeah, or they haven't been told well.
Yeah.
One or the other. The responsibility of education's on the learner and the deliverer.
Yeah.
It's not just on the deliverer. My kids come home from school, and my youngest one, she'd come home from school and she'd say, the teacher did this. And go, what did you do?
Yeah.
You're the learner. How much effort did you bring?
Yeah, true.
It's not just the teacher. You both, when we talk about clients and finding a good match, that's when we can learn from each other in the process, because we have to learn them. We have to learn their behaviors, the way they want to be communicated with. Is it in line with our process? If it's not, get out.
Yeah.
And look, just recently I had somebody recommended to me by somebody who I really like, and I'm going down this process of discovery with them, and I'm going, this is going to be a nightmare. And I'm torn because I've been recommended. And on the other side of it, I go, this guy's definitely not going to follow the process. I keep giving him opportunities to step into the process, and he keeps asking me not to do it.
Yeah.
And I go, you know what? We don't want to go, 50, 60, 70 grand down the road with the guy.
Yeah,
because we will end up we'll end up in a flawed place.
It's really important that you've got to work as a team.
100%, and that takes a match. Not everybody's going to be on your team. It's like there's certain personalities that won't match up. There's certain values that won't match up.
Yeah.
So how do you get those values and personalities to match up? And you've got to do it, I think, from the design point of view. You've got to do it with the builder. And the builder is, I was about to say, is more important than the client. They're not more important, but if you don't have a team with your builder, then you won't get success. One or both of you might get success singly, but to put you two together, then there'll be somebody who feels dissatisfied at the end. Somebody won't feel like it worked. And then your client is the winner of that partnership or that teamwork. And so you're trying to create this team where you can all rely on each other. You've all got each other's back, especially in the thing of, take for instance in mine, the engineer, the certifier, the builder. We all need to be on a team together, so that we're all backing each other for the success of the client. And that doesn't have any room for throwing each other under the bus or anything else. We're a team. We all go forward together, and so you've got to hold on that way. And each team has to have the respect for the other team member's job. So when I started this design magic process, go back to that, I had this 20% thing at least, and that things were going to overrun by. So then I went, well, that's easy solved. If I take their budget, we'll use the million, we'll take the 20% off. So now we'll say your budget's $800,000 and we'll design it based on a square meter rate at $800,000. And they'll push you for more and all the rest, but that's beside the point. We'll keep pulling back to about the square meter, and whether that's $2,000 a square meter, or $4,000 or $10,000, it just means you can stop when you've got to that much work on the page.
Yeah.
There's a point.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Sorry to interrupt, guys, but we've got to thank our sponsors because without them, we can't keep delivering you this incredible podcast. So massive shout out to DPS Constructions, Quoties, Live Life Build, and 44-Gallon Films. Make sure you go and check those guys out, support them so that we can keep delivering you this incredible podcast. Mate, I'm so glad. Again, to me, it's a no-brainer. And I butt heads with people on this, but I'm exactly the same. If someone gives you $1 million budget, and in our process, we call them project sheets.
Yep.
They do the design brief or whatever that may be. I pick 2 or 3 jobs. You and I discuss it. All right, well, what they want is similar to those ones there. That one there's $3,000 a square meter. Take $200,000 off. Make it $800,000.
Yep.
Divide the $800,000 by 3,000. That gives you a certain size.
Make sure you've taken the fees off as well.
Yeah.
I asked first, project or build.
Yeah.
So we establish a build budget. Where's the money for the project budget coming from? Because these are all the other things that you're going to get charged.
Yeah, so it might be $1 million. You take the 20% off, you get 800. You might take 80 or 100 grand off for all the professional
so now we're at
fees.
7. Yep.
Yeah, and then you divide it by the 3,000 square meter. It gives you a figure.
We should have had make it down to 600,000 because then we know it's 200 square meter home.
And then you start with that.
Yeah.
Whereas so many, I don't know.
That makes sense, doesn't it? So
It
the
makes
other
sense.
way
Yeah.
that I approach it is I go, so you want a new house? Yep, you want a new house. How many bedrooms did you want? Okay, cool. Before we go any further, are they double bedrooms or single bedrooms, double bedrooms, or queen or king size bedrooms? Oh, what's the difference? Oh, well, this one would be maybe 4 meters by 4 meters. Do they have walk-in closets? What do they have? And I just go, you want 4 of those? And we'll say they're 4 by 4 each. So we've got 16 square meters per bedroom. Yeah. So we've got 64 square meters of house already. That's going to be some of the cheapest house to build as well.
Yeah.
That's not, if you start putting bathrooms and stuff around, it gets more expensive. So we write down our 64 square meters and then we go, okay, so you want an ensuite? Yep. Well, let's just say that that's going to be 3 by 3. We'll call it 9, but let's call it 10. So now we're at 75 square meters, and we just keep doing this until we've listed all the rooms that they've asked for. When we've got all those rooms listed, we go and put a totals, and we go, and we might not have put hallways and stuff in yet. So we get this total number, and now we multiply that total number by a dollar figure, and whether that be, as I say, 3,000, 4,000, whatever it is, based on the expectation of what we might have gone through with what they want the home to look like and feel like. That's a whole nother package. At that point, then we can go, you know what? Your whatever it was, $1 million, whether it's 600 now or whatever it is, isn't going to get you there. So what we need to do is now have the conversation about rationalization of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
We start our process with a wish list that has 3 categories. So again, this is something different from most people do. If I'm giving you and your wife a wish list, I give them to you separately and I tell you to write them separately and not to talk about them together and just be as goddamn selfish as you can be. Ask for what you want.
Yeah.
In our wish list, it categorizes it from this project will not happen without it. So if I don't get this, this isn't going to happen. The next one is I'd really love these items. And the last one is it'd be brilliant if I could have these, but I don't within the budget.
Yeah.
Now get those 2 lists if your marriage can handle it and put them together and write a 3rd list. But I want to see all 3. And I certainly don't want to see you dictating it to your wife or your wife dictating it to you. It's a separate thing because A, they'll learn something about each other. And B, what will happen is the hierarchy of the value of it won't happen without it will get rationalized.
Yeah.
And then I look at those 3 lists and I look to see if there's a bully. Is there somebody who's overriding everything? If everything on your list wiped out your wife's list, I'd be going, do I want to work with that guy?
Yeah.
what was the thing there? Is he just in control of it all? And then, just this kind of behavior. So I'm looking at it that way to see what the dynamic is. But by doing those things, I'm actually getting them to think like an individual rather than for their family, for their whatever. They've always got that in their mind. But I want to see what they want and see how close to themselves they are to understand what they want.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people aren't.
Mate, it all makes perfect sense.
It's years of getting to the process to do it. So with that, and then putting together a design magic, as I call it, which is the point of, is the budget going to meet there? There's another piece with that, which is, should you be spending this much on this piece of land? Or should you be spending $1 million on renovating this house when the most you'll get for it's $200,000? Should you be putting that money in? People say, am I going to overcapitalize? Well, there's two kinds of capitalization. One's over and one's under. You could buy the most brilliant block right by the sea, whatever it is, worth $100 million, and you turn around and you put $100,000 shack on it, undercapitalized. You go the other way, you buy a block in the back blocks and you put a $5 million house on it, overcapitalized.
It's a hard one, mate, because so many, that's all part of the process, I guess, but because people have to get educated on how long they're going to be living there for, what their family circumstances are, all those types of things play a part in that, and establishing what they're going to spend. But I guess for everyone listening as well, the deep breathing isn't Adrian or myself.
It's neither of us.
We've got Walter bloody sitting on the floor at the moment. So lots of noises going on today.
Walter's joined the show. I think you're right. It's an education process, and whoever touches the client first should take the lead on that responsibility. And if it's the builder that touches them first, then the builder should be doing it. And if the designer's touching them first or the architect's touching them first, then they should be doing it to the best of their ability. And when somebody creates a process, like your PAC process, it means that there is a standard, there's a benchmark that people can work to.
Yeah.
I don't know of any in the design industry where there's that thing. And I don't think you'd ever see a design contract that doesn't say that the designer is not responsible for the cost of the build. It's like when you get that stuff back from your accountant. Yeah. And it says, that given this is all true and correct, given the figures we were given. Yeah. We're not taking any responsibility.
It is such a tricky to navigate situation, but because you are generally, most of the time the reason for someone wanting to build or renovate is varies so much. It could be they're growing their family, they want to have kids, so they need more space. It could be that they've had inheritance, or they've just done well and they want to improve their living situation. They could have an elderly parents that's going to come. There's so many reasons why people want to build or renovate, and that all plays a part in what we're talking about as well. So there's so much to digest and get to the bottom of, and problems to resolve and budgets to talk about.
Understanding they don't even necessarily know why they're really being driven to do it either.
Yeah.
It might just be that they want it new. I mean, think of how people go shopping.
Yeah.
You don't need another shirt. A bunch of the things.
Well,
you still go and buy one.
Yeah. Well, there's so much drive now these days, isn't there, by social media and things. Everyone's trying to keep up with the Joneses. But for me, there's some really simple things that can happen that really simplify the process. And number one is looking. So it does get it gets tricky, but when you're getting pricing off builders, the pricing is a reflection of the type of business they're running. So if they're running a terrible business that they don't understand their running costs, and I can tell you from the research we've done, I'd love to put a percentage on it, and I personally think it's somewhere around 80 or 90% of builders are actually trading insolvent. So you have builders that are understanding their costs, running profitable businesses that are pricing against builders that are running every job, chasing their tail, no cash flow, and just trying to keep their head above water. There can be a massive difference in cost between those two. Then you've got builders that are running all different types of businesses. You got a one-man band that's on the tools. It doesn't have a lot of overheads. You got guys that may have some person in the office. You might have some person in the office and some supervision. You've got all different levels of overheads,
100%.
which reflects the final cost. And so with that part of it, you've got to find a builder that you connect with, that you trust, that you see as a professional, and make it more about the relationship than about the cost. because there is so many things that can control the cost. Once you've found that, you've got to, well, ideally you want to be looking for a builder that is big on their data and tracking costs and can sit with you and your designer and say, hey, here's a variety of the jobs we've done. This job was this much per square meter, this job, this job, this job. This job is similar to the one you want to build. We need to allow $4,000 a square meter. This is your budget. Like, and then just
at least you've got to start.
You got a starting point.
Yep.
It's never going to be exact because the finishes you want are going to be different to the finishes someone else wants.
100%.
But at least you're aiming, like I call it a target. You've got to have something to aim for. If you don't, you will waste so much time, energy and money, not just of yourself, but whoever you're employing to work with you.
Oh, everybody.
Everybody
suffers.
Yeah, and it's the quickest way for the clients to get disheartened in the whole process because they just keep getting told they can't afford what they want.
Well, this is a really interesting thing. Like, we're always going to be telling the clients that, in my case, that this is the cost, and whether they can afford it or not, it's whether affordability isn't necessarily just dollars, it's value.
Exactly.
So you take somebody who's got, hundreds of millions of dollars, and to them, it's not about the money, it's about the return on what they're going to get from that money that's spent. And they go, you know what, if that's all I'm going to get for it in the sense of value back to them in their life, they go, it's not valuable enough for me. I'm not spending that much for that much value back. And then on the other side of it, there's people who will just flat run out of money, and you could get everybody to that stage, but there are certainly people who could go a lot further. The fact is we're trying to get to the point of what's their value. How do they value something so that we give them the best piece of the outcome? The example would be, we could build you a great big, we could draw you could build it, a great big lounge room. Now, does anybody say to somebody, you know what, you won't be able to talk to each other in there, so one sofa will be over there or the other sofa will be over there. So we look at it and we go, that lounge room at that size will either take two seating settings. What's this family dynamic? How do they behave? What are they looking for? How do they entertain? All these things. Do we want something of that size? Because otherwise we've just built a big room that now's got no intimacy and no connection. So the value comes from how they want to live in that room.
But even things like that, like I'm so big on this now, it's not funny. All the designers and architects we're working with are big on this as well. Like it's not up to myself or the designer or the architect to try and push the client in any certain direction or tell them what they should be doing. It's up to us to educate them, so the designer educates them on what they're asking for looks like.
Yep.
My job's to educate them on what that's going to cost. And then it's up to them to tell us what they see the value in. And
100%.
When that happens, it's magic. But the other side of that is, like, using that scenario you just talked about, people might come to you thinking that's what they want. Like their heart of the home's a lounge room. They need it huge. They want big screen TV. They want 3 couches, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And when you get like a couple of the people we work with are really, really good at getting to the bottom of this, and through conversation and encouraging to tell more stories about how they live and all that type of thing. Sometimes you end up finding out that they only want that massive room because 3 times, like Easter and Christmas, they get all the family over.
Yep.
But when they learn that the cost of having that big room to be able to house a family for 2 times a year, they're like, oh yeah, nah, look, we'll just set up out on the patio and we'll get some
100%. We'll hire a marquee. We'll do whatever.
Yeah. So, but they can't make those decisions if you don't build a team that collaborates.
Well, they can't. The designer or architect can't make those decisions without the builder being there to give them the knowledge.
Yeah.
If it's not a builder, it's an estimator.
Yeah.
And so somebody has to know the figures and be able to stand up with those figures and go, mate, it will cost this.
I think another
stand in their spot and own it.
I think another issue, mate, that I feel for guys like yourself, designers and architects, where it gets difficult is I think there are so many builders that actually have the opportunity to get involved and give this advice, but I don't know, number one, they're chasing the next job, so they don't actually say what they know it's going to cost too much, but they just keep sort of drip feeding because they want the next job, and they miss an opportunity to actually put their hand up and say, like, one thing we've definitely found with the processes we have now and everything we do is having the confidence, because we've got the data to back it up, to say to clients, that is what that's going to cost.
Yeah.
And so I'm upfront enough now that I just tell tell it how it is. Like the example I use all the time is if we're working our way through a design and at one of the design meetings, a client's like, oh, look, it's all looking fantastic. We'd love to go from aluminium windows to timber windows. I can say that right there and then at the meeting, well, look, on average, timber windows are 30 to 40% dearer than aluminium windows. On this particular project, that's probably going to add $60,000.
Yep.
Your current project spend is $500,000. Are you happy to increase that to 560?
More than 10%.
Yeah. So the processes we have now is like we would get that signed off on meeting minutes.
Yep.
And the client has to make the decision. Like,
but informed.
Informed, yeah.
Not uninformed.
Yeah.
You know, like we would come to you and we'd say, so this kind of house, this kind of finishes, these kinds of things, to give you an idea of what we're looking at. That might be only in photographs, or maybe it's in a house that we can show you. And we would say to you, so as a builder, so what's this one on the paper here going to cost, given that roughly? Give me a square metre rate. And you'd look and you'd go, this place here, whether you built it or somebody else built it, you'd look and you'd go, there's all day long, there's $4,000 a square metre, or it's 2-story, it's probably 5 up in this, and it's probably, you know, it might be just under 4 down, or whatever the figure is, doesn't really matter. Or you might walk around and go, it's a lot of zero tolerance stuff in here. You know, this is right up at the architectural end of building. There's not many room for margins and stuff, so it's going to be slower. It's going to take more of this. You know, all your window sizes are up over 5 square meters of glass, so that's going to be more expensive. You know, you're a better educated builder because you've experienced it, and you turn around and go, mate, you're at $6,000 a square meter, I reckon, looking at what your square meterage is, number of bathrooms and stuff. At that point there, we have, as a team, because they won't always believe me, but as a team, or even not as a team, with me going and saying, look, builder's run his eye over it. He's telling you that this is $6,000 a square metre. You're at, say, 400 square metres. Are you comfortable with this at 2.4 million? Is this where you want to be? I know you told me back when we started that you had 1.6, say, or something like that, but this is where we've got to, and we're in preliminaries, we're in pencils, but they're accurate pencils. Well, that's the conversation we need. And then when I go...
Well, so many people are afraid to have that. Like, so we've definitely found this goes two ways. So, like I said, I'm at a point where I just tell it how it is.
Yep.
Because...
Cut to the chase.
Well, mate, I think I'm at that point because I value my time.
Right.
So I probably started doing this because I didn't want to waste other people's time. But now I'm like, I'm telling you how it is because I don't want to be sitting here for the next 6 months going round in circles. I've got other shit I can be doing.
Yep.
So I value my time, and I'm not going to tell porky pies just so I can be involved in a job and waste more of my time.
No.
But the other thing is...
But just on that note, if you think that in the world of architecture, something like maybe 40 to 50% of projects get built.
I haven't seen it recently, but I know maybe 3 years ago, there was a stat going around that 83% of buildings, of drawings, never get drawn.
Yep. So if that's true, that is illegal. Like it should be illegal. That's a industry that has failed dramatically.
Yeah.
So, you know, if everybody's doing drawings and things aren't getting built, we've got a major, major problem. Except for the people getting paid to do the drawings.
Yeah.
They've got a whole industry going.
Well,
they're not responsible
designers,
for the
engineers,
outcome.
Yeah. But the other side of that is we've definitely seen, and we get it as early as our inquiry form, by being upfront and telling people, like the amount of people now that we have say to us, like, oh, we're happy to spend more. We just didn't know what we wanted was going to cost.
Yeah.
And like we get that as early as our inquiry form when we go back to clients say, oh, look, we're really sorry at this point in time, but for the scope of works you've said, the estimated project spend you've told us and the size of the project you think you may have, we can't help you at this point in time. From our data, we estimate that what you've told us with the limited data that we have at the moment, it's probably going to be this to this. And again, mate, the amount of people that come back and go, oh, look, no other builder has actually told us what we're wanting is going to cost.
Yep.
And for me, that just saves the client time, yourself time, me time, and we can...
Well, it means that the client can actually make decisions.
Yeah.
And if they can make decisions that are informed, then we all don't go round the merry-go-round to finally get to some point. You know, like the chances are the client will persevere because they've still got a dream.
Yeah.
But the journey becomes
But a lot of time, one thing that has got really, really frustrating for me is, for me, it doesn't matter if the client's got $50,000 or $5 million. To that particular person, it's a lot of money, and they've worked hard to get it. So I take it very personally that it doesn't matter what value the job is, I need to make sure I can get the person the best thing I can for what they want to spend.
100%.
And I don't think enough builders are thinking about it like that.
Or designers.
Yeah.
The problem starts in both camps. It doesn't just start in your camp as a builder. It starts in the design camp as well, because this broken relationship between builders and architects and designers, where architects and designers are always accused by builders of asking for too much or impossible things, or not understanding, of course, that'll cost this much or whatever. And on the other side of it, architects and designers are saying, bloody builders, they're only just lining their own pockets.
Yeah.
And they don't care about our design. They don't care about all the effort and the thought we've put into it and why we do it a certain way.
There's a very broken...
It's a broken relationship.
It's definitely.
And if you heal that relationship, then you can actually really get powerful stuff.
Mate, that
makes it worth being in the industry when it works.
I think you're on the same page as me, mate. Like the fact that we get to build someone's home, like where they create memories, they
traditions, family, everything. Yeah.
That is an enormous opportunity to be able to create that. Yeah. And I don't know. I think from a builder's point of view anyway, because I know I was going down this path, I think so many builders just get so overwhelmed and frustrated with the business side of the things. They're great builders. Yeah. And we've touched on this off air, but great builders, but just no structure, no processes, no business sense, no, like we talked on earlier, no spending on personal growth and all those types of things. But we could definitely bang on about this all day, but
that's my design magic one then.
We've still got two to go. Let's touch on them, because I think I love how you've put names on them. I think it's fantastic.
Well, again, it's to be able to wrap them up into something that's meaningful, and so they're not just what we do. They are what we do, but it's like we're going to take you through this piece so that it becomes more meaningful. So land whispering was actually a conversation between myself and an amazing architect in Marin County in California, Brad Hubble. And Brad Hubble from Hubble Daily, absolutely beautiful architect, lovely, lovely human being. And him and I having this conversation, and I was telling him about, on my podcast, Jeffrey Dungan, who's an architect from Alabama. And Jeffrey was saying to me, well, you know what it's like. You look out across a site, and, the building kind of just stands up in front of you. And really all we do is fill boxes with light and air. And I went, I do know what it's like. I know what it's like to stand there and envisage a house and see that house sitting in amongst the trees or wherever it is, sitting on the beachfront, whatever. And I was saying this to Brad, and Brad and I were having a laugh about this, and I'll tell you one other little story with it, about, each place, especially acreage land, each piece of land has a feeling. It's got an energy in the ground. It's got something that you can tap into. But you probably have to get to a quiet space or centered and, calm down in that space. For us ADHD guys, that's not so easy. But
no, but I hear what you're saying.
Get to the space where you actually start to tune into what's around, and you're listening to the bird song, and you're looking at how the light comes through the trees, say, and you're looking at how the wind's shifted things, where the waters run, and all these things on the land. And there's places that you just walk over, and that isn't a spot that you'd ever consider for a house. And there's other spots that you imagine other things happening in. You're not just looking for a house site. You're looking for an environment, your place making. You've got these boundaries that you can work within. You're looking to make a place of community, connection and security for a family or for whatever it is. We go with the family. And one of the other things with that is what's sacred about those spaces. And if we look to what, say, for instance, a space that might give you the most amazing spot to picnic, or to be away from your house, but you see from your house maybe, but it's like a space that just gives a whole nother energy. And this comes back to the story I was telling him at the time. So another good friend of mine, amazing architect, out of Austin, Texas, and I won't use his name because the story's pretty funny. I'm talking to him one day about Frank Lloyd Wright, and he goes, and I can use my language. Yeah. I said to him something about Frank Lloyd Wright, and he goes, that Frank Lloyd Wright was an arsehole. And I'm like, mate, he was bloody top architect of, the last century. And he goes, yeah, but he was an arsehole. And I'm like, what do you mean he was an arsehole? And he goes, oh, well, what an arrogant bastard, da-da-da-da. And I said, tell me more, bring it on, tell me more. And he goes, well, take that falling water house. And I'm like, yeah. And I said, most famous house in the world, and he goes, yeah, exactly. He goes, there's this family, the Craftmans, who used to come up from Pittsburgh and sit on Bear Run Creek, and they used to summer on this rock and swim in the pools and all the rest. That prick put a house on it. And I'm like, as much as I was like, you're pissed off, I go, this is a very valid point. He goes, he's got acres of country there he could have put a house on, and they could have still picnicked on that rock, swam on it, done that every summer, but that arrogant son of a bitch put a house on it. And I'm like, interesting, eh?
That's going to get some people talking.
Yeah, well, this is when you go back to, is it a sacred spot?
Yeah.
And is this spot sacred enough that you would preserve it and not put a house on it, but put a house in its proximity so that it became available? And so when you're considering your land and you're feeling for all that energy in the land, look for the sacred spots and what are they sacred for and how would you use them? And it might not be for a house. So I look at that and I go, this is part of our land whispering process. Brad and I got into this conversation about this, and we started talking about different land we'd walked on and the way different land ignites us and the way we see things happen in it. And so we expanded that conversation to quite a few other architects. And there's currently 4 of us around the globe. And we all practice it in a semi-structured process, how to whisper a piece of land, how to get one with it, look for what it is. You often don't want the client there. You might have had the client there. What you want is to be there on your own often. It's lovely to be there before the sun comes up.
Yeah.
It's lovely to be there after the sun's gone down.
Mate, I'm like as
camping.
You're talking, I'm like, we've just recently purchased a farm up north on the ocean, and I'm just picturing as you're talking and thinking like, this is awesome. And so we've been camping on this spot because it's the one we just love
it's the best spot.
And we were thinking that's where we would possibly put a house.
Yeah, let's put a house right on that spot. Now you'll consider.
Now I'm thinking, shit, we maybe need to,
because maybe that spot is for that casualness, for that openness, and for that, maybe it's a fire pit, maybe it's something like that you can still engage the spot before you go and put a bloody dirty house on it. Yeah. That changes the speed wherever it goes forever.
Yeah.
And like this thing of walking over it and letting yourself feel it and becoming in touch with it and listening, sitting and listening in the morning and listening in the afternoon. It's not a one visit wonder. It's like it's actually going and digging in and looking what the wind does and seeing when the birds come and where they fly in and out of, where do the, roos go or whatever there is, what other stuff's on the land, how you're honouring all that.
Yeah,
because that's our responsibility to the planet. Because whatever we do is going to change it. Whatever we do, and we're going to do something, is going to change it. So how do we have the least impact with what we do to change it, and the most impact for the humans that come into it, and then create this incredible environment? So that's our land whispering process, and we'll do that for even if we're looking at say an original house that's already on something, is where did the other people make magic outside of that house? What happens? Where's the dynamic, and where does the land allow for that dynamic to happen? So it's
I love it.
I kind of go, it's a bit of a woo-woo process, but it's not.
No, I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a responsibility is the way I see it.
I actually feel like, so doing this pack process that we have, I believe it has made me such a better builder. It's made me understand design and architecture a lot more. But I love all this stuff because I feel that so many builders don't, they just think they're there to build the house.
Yeah, pour concrete, put up block, put up brick.
Like this stuff just adds so much more value to everybody. Like when everybody's on the same page and working towards this, and mate, the last 10 minutes of what you've been talking about just resonates so much with me because I actually, I know everything is driven by costs,
of course,
and I know that everyone, my thing at the moment, or something that I really think about a lot, is the way that Australia is developing, and there's all these master plan communities popping up everywhere, and the houses are boundary to boundary, and they've got enough room out the back just to have maybe a pool and a little bit of yard, and the developers feel that because like every so many homes, they've got these big parks, no one's connected. Like parents aren't going to send their kids out to play at the park that's 2 streets away. And
no, not today.
Like no one can go and sit in their backyard now and look at a beautiful garden or a bit of a view because you're looking at your neighbour's fence. Like
what happened to when we didn't have fences?
Yeah.
What happened to when you had a house and it sat there and there was no fence to the road? There was no barrier to entry. There was no barrier to entry to your neighbours. In fact, if they mowed half your lawn or you mowed half their lawn, you wouldn't really know other than it was mowed because there was no boundary line. What happened to when we lived like that, where we put up a house and then we got, I don't know whether we got more and more fearful or whether society got sicker and sicker or whether both things happened. And suddenly, like, we're living with fences, walls.
Well, mate, we've got to it as a society where a lot of neighbours don't even know each other.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Don't even talk. Like, like where I'm going with that is it doesn't matter how, like, it seems these days it doesn't matter how big the blocks are in like residential areas. People are just making the biggest house they can
on it. Fill it up.
I would, mate, and like we're at a point now in our journey, like if anything ever happened or we had to buy a smaller house or whatever, like I know some housing estates now are doing 280 square metre blocks or 320 square metre blocks and that stuff, and they're filling the whole thing with house.
Yep.
I would rather stick a tiny house like on that block and create these amazing outdoor spaces,
100%.
Fire pits, pool area, so that even though you've got a small block,
a bathroom and a bedroom,
you can still do what you're talking about. You've still got somewhere that you can create special times and sit outside and watch the sunrise and the sunset. Like,
we do live in Queensland, 330 sunshine days a year for anybody who's listening.
But like, I don't know.
I'm with you.
I love everything you're talking about. I think it's very powerful.
I go, we build bigger for
we're disconnected.
Ego. Yeah.
Like, we're so disconnected.
Look at what we're doing as a whole society. We're disconnecting.
Yeah.
You know, we're using so many device-driven things, whereas once we would have had a group of people that we were always in connection with. We still do have that because we have a close circle of friends, but we would have had a much wider circle of people that we would have been in connection with. And I think that's because of the fact that and a deeper connection with, because we would have rung them at night from at home. We would have valued their time and they would have valued our time, and we would have have the conversation we needed, whatever it is. We would have been at work the next day. We would have caught up on things there. We probably just all took things at a slightly slower pace. We didn't all have social media, so we were trying to show our shiny faces the best way possible. And, you know, everything wasn't marketing. Every human now's their own personal brand and you got to market yourself and all this. And I get all that, but with that comes the disconnection as well, because people believe that they're that person. It's like when we started this about being dyslexic and ADHD. I mean, I'm like, 2 superpowers, man.
Yeah.
Same as you, 2 superpowers. Bring it on. I wonder who the buggers who got more than us were. You know, what are they doing with it? But just that whole thing of, just our world's shifted and changed so much. And I think actually the pandemic has changed people's attitudes on a lot of things around that as well. I just did a series for the AIA Austin Homes Tour, and one of the houses that I was talking to an architect about, she was telling me that this house is built on a street where people walk, and the front corner of it's got a generous sized patio that faces the street and is close enough to the street to engage other people walking. Now, in the street, nobody has a fence. And in fact, if you want a fence, you can, but the Homeowners Association probably tell you to take it down. They'll fence sideways, so that dogs and stuff like that, and they'll fence from the back of the house so that they can have contained areas. But at the front, they don't have fences. This is in Austin, Texas. And the street, you go and live there because people wander along with a glass of wine or a block of cheese and bread or whatever, and they come for a chat in the evenings, and they walk their own street and create community, and they know who all the neighbours are and what they do.
Yeah.
They've created community, they're placemaking by need of connection. And you look at the pandemic and how, say, like in Italy, when all these people were locked in their apartments and they sang, they look for connection, they placemate. They go, how do we do this? How do we get back to it? How do we get more nature? And so all these points, you know, like are things of people searching for something that we're leaving them without. Otherwise, they wouldn't be searching for it. They'd already have it.
Yeah.
So what are we doing in this design and build industry that we're not actually getting their feet on the ground, that we're not building a smaller house? with a better outdoor area.
Mate, most of these master plan estates now don't even have
No footpaths.
enough. Well, there's not even enough area that people can walk around in barefoot on grass in their own yard. Like they can't even connect with the earth.
Yeah, I know. It's
Like
you tell me. I'm like, it baffles me, but it's all in the name of money.
Yeah.
It's all in the name of don't release that land yet until we've got this land released and we can get this amount of dollars for it because the return on investment's got to be this because these fees have got to be paid.
I would love to be able to supply people transportable homes and tiny homes now. They can buy a block of land in a master planned estate and park it on it and have a beautiful yard like with awesome outdoor spaces. But like we know from conversations with clients and things, like unless they can, well, there's lots of things happening there. So probably the first one is unless they can pay cash for things, banks won't lend on it. Because they want the
asset they can sell off.
They want to compare it to a double garage 3-bedroom, like because that's value to them, not lifestyle and healthy living and stuff. The banks don't give a shit about that.
That's long gone.
But the second part of it is developers generally aren't allowing it because they don't want to. They think a demandable building or a tiny home in the middle of a housing estate brings the value down. Like so,
but they also think taking all the trees off it, mowing it flat with dozers and everything, so that it's all easy to build on. So you can put a slab on every place is flat, even if that means building retaining walls and everything else. They think that's good for the land as well. Yeah, it's great for the natural water flow. I'm sure it's great for all of the nature that's gets shifted off it. I mean, you live near enough to the Sunshine Coast. Go and have a look at palmwoods, acres and acres and acres of forest that's been flattened and subdivision after subdivision after subdivision and some of the most beautiful land on the Sunshine Coast.
Mate, it drives me insane. Like there's actually a block or a couple of developments not far from where we're in a very thick koala corridor here.
I saw that driving in here.
And mate, there's blocks of land around here that are covered in gum trees. We've seen koalas there, and we're walking with the kids, and yet developers are allowed to come in and flatten it, leave 1 or 2 trees standing
for the koalas.
Yeah, like it's terrible how things are going. But
doesn't make sense, eh? There's a disconnect.
There's a complete disconnect. Like everyone, I don't know, I'm not sure on the wording for it, but I really struggle with what people see value in now. Like the way banks value things, the way developers value things, the way I think and a lot of people I feel need to feel like they have to have a certain size house or have to have something. Like, mate, I know personally, like some of the most wealthy people are ones living in the simplest house in the most beautiful position, that are walking on the beach every day, that are hiking in the bush and living life. Like that is wealth.
Absolutely.
Like wealth isn't having millions of dollars in the bank or the biggest flashiest house you can have. Like
that can be a part of wealth, but if you're not getting the whole picture, it's just a part of something. Yeah.
And like the way that we're all led, like especially with Instagram, social media, and things, like the perception of what wealth is
pretty blingy.
Yeah, like if anything, like don't get me wrong, like I like nice stuff. I like working hard to achieve goals and have things. But at the end of the day, the most valuable thing to me is time with my 2 girls, my wife. And like I've done plenty of videos. Like, mate, my wealth and my happy place is where my tires hit the dirt road or my feet hit the sand. I'm the wealthiest man in the world, mate. When I'm in those places with my family.
Get it. I totally get it. It's the ability to have the opportunity to do those things. Yeah. And then we should change the have to get to do those things. Yeah. That's richness, to have that space. And even just to have your kids come to work with you and be around you when you're doing stuff, even if it's working. Just to be able to show them, to have them involved, to have them growing and learning with you. Yeah. And even if you don't have kids, to be able to get to enjoy something of nature. Take same size country in land mass as America, 350 million people or something like that. We've got 24 million people. Yeah. There is so much of it that is there for us to enjoy and to get an outcome from. We don't have the constraints that, say, an American has. We even get holidays, mandatory holidays every year. They don't get that. And when you talk about getting a better life, and then you equate this better life to a house or to a home, because a house is a house, can have tons of houses, but what we're trying to do is create homes for people.
That's something else I've really learnt
Yeah.
been involved in the process.
Yeah.
Anyone can build a house.
Yeah.
Not many people build homes.
Got to build homes. Got to build homes because they nurture values, community, relationship. They nurture the next generation that does it. They are homes, and they don't have to be flash. Homes are what make the difference. When we break down family values, we break down, or family and community values, we break down the core of society. And we as humans flock together. We all like to get away, but we flock together. We go together partly for security and for convenience of, having people that can help us do things, pull on other people's strengths. So it's a really interesting thing that we need homes. We need homes. That whole thing is the key. And you can make anything a home. You can make the shed a home. You can do anything to make a home out of it. It's a set of mindset values that you bring to it, and how you respect it, treat it, and value it is what's going to happen there. And so it's not about the flashes building. It's about having the connection with the things that make the difference to your emotional state. When you get the right connection with your emotional state, then you've really got somewhere to go.
Process?
Well, yeah, my emotional floor plan. Yeah. Emotional floor plans are a reasonably new one that we started doing. One of the key questions that we're asking people when we're designing a home for them is, how do you want it to feel? How do you want to feel in this space? Then we start to break that down to, let's just use a kitchen as an example. How do you want to feel in this kitchen at 5 a.m. in the morning? How do you want to feel in this kitchen at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? How do you want to feel in this kitchen in the afternoon? How do you want to feel in this kitchen on a Saturday? How do you want to feel in this kitchen on a birthday? How do you want to feel on Christmas? Whatever your holidays are.
Yeah.
How do you want to feel? Don't worry about the kitchen. The kitchen's a kitchen. It's going to have a cooker. It's going to have a washer. It's going to have whatever. How do you want to feel? How do you want to make it emotionally nurture you? What's the emotions it needs to bring? And then architecture and design needs to respond to what those person's emotions are brought that way. For instance, stone might be a great example over, say, just go with this one. Stone and timber, being natural timber and real stone, might bring a very, very different feel to somebody over a man-made stone and a piece of Laminex. I'm not saying anything wrong with either, just saying what's the difference in the tactility and the weight and the way it absorbs sound, the way that it does its thing. What's the difference that emotionally that brings to you? Because if we can tweak some of those parts to give you an emotional level that gives you a calmness and a sense of joy, we are going to just take you to a whole nother level in how this house can be. It's when it's becoming a home.
Yeah.
And so
it's becoming part of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my case, we design custom homes.
Yeah.
So we don't design homes for people who don't live in them. We know the people, they live in them. And so with that, we're looking at that and going, let's go through this house room by room. So we already have our concept. We'll already have a sense of that. And we'll start breaking down in the early concept stages. Well, what are the emotions? And we give keywords, trigger words, all these things. But if I say to you, joy, then your outcome of what joy is could be completely different from mine. Joy for you might be, a cold beer and my feet sitting up with my boots off, but joy for me might be sitting.
That's pretty much it, mate. I'm pretty easy pleased.
All us blokes say that until we're asked. Mine might be, tucked in a corner in a big chair with a scotch and a view. Yeah. Without the view, it might not have any joy.
Yeah.
And so finding these elements of where the emotional spaces are in a home is something that we can do, and we can start to map. And then we're usually doing it for a couple. So we've got to map the couple together, which most couples aren't the same. That's why they're couples. And so finding the elements in the journey where they get to respect the other person and why that means so much to them and why that feels so good to them.
Yeah.
And so we start to map this whole thing. And then how does the built structure alter to do that? What creates intimacy? What creates security? What creates freedom? What creates expansiveness? What creates these emotions? So that might be, I feel really fantastic when I've got I've got a big open view, but I've got timber ceilings over me, and I've got timber under my feet. Or it might be, I feel really solid when I'm standing on, concrete or on stone. It grounds me. It brings me down, and I don't want to feel like there's too much space in the room. I want a little bit of coziness. We might do that for a couple. Might have one that's expansive and one that's not, and then we're working out what time they'll use it and when they need that feeling most to regenerate their human self.
Yeah.
So we might bring the lighting down, and that might be the piece that really makes it feel intimate. The whole rest of the room's gone away. Or we might be shining light up into it so that it's like all of a sudden our timber ceiling is raked up and it's looking like it's parts of a tree, not literally, but that we're getting the sense of nature coming out of it.
But this is like, I love this, and this is the type of thing that I believe people are missing out on, and probably because they're not getting asked.
Yeah.
So to me, build a smaller home that you can have all this shit in.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
forget about just the biggest home you can have and all the white plaster walls and ceilings and tiled floors. Design a smaller home that you can go to this level of detail in and connect with it.
And you don't necessarily always need a lot of that thing.
No.
One timber beam might tell the whole story, not a whole timber ceiling.
But people are too focused on getting the biggest house they can.
Yep, biggest, beautiful.
And missing out on
the value and the quality.
And the intimacy and the, oh, mate, seriously, we could talk for friggin' days about this shit. Like a well-finished, designed, orientated home.
Well-oriented.
Like changes, like I'm a firm believer now, changes your life.
Oh, 100%. And
like,
not just yours, everybody else in your life. The processional value keeps going wider and wider and wider.
Yeah.
It's not just your life. When your life changes, everything else that you touch changes.
Yeah.
That's the really incredible value of shifting a life.
I don't think people, like, it's hard. It can be a hard one to explain unless you've sat in lots of meetings or you do what you do. And until you've been asked these questions or been given this experience. And I think it can even come down to the most simple things like storage in a home. Like when you live in a house that suits you and your lifestyle. And again, I've learned this by sitting in on these design meetings. Like the guys we work with now are so good at getting deep into this. And like one of the examples I like to use is, like, it shits me when you drive around and you see these new homes and both cars are parked on the driveway because the garage is too full of shit because no one bothered
storage shed.
No one bothered to ask questions about hobbies and lifestyle and where's this go, where's that go. And so the garage is chock-a-block of camper trailers, boats, canoes, like camping gear,
push bikes, like motorbikes,
arts and craft, like whatever it is. Yeah. Whereas if you spent the money up front and
put a carport on the damn thing.
But if you like, I've completely changed on this. Like I used to think it was crazy for people to spend money with designers and architects, but whereas now I'm like, spend as much spend the money,
spend what it takes.
The more money you spend up front, the better. You're going to have a better project, a better quality of life, a home. You're not just going to have a house, you're going to have a home that suits you. And I think so many builders are missing the value add that they can bring to their clients by not hooking up with people like yourselves, creating processes where you have a team and you all get involved. Because I know how it works now. Like I spent like until 3-4 years ago where we live in the house we live in now, like the biggest house we'd have before this house was 110 square meters.
About the right size.
Yeah, but they were old houses. They were asbestos houses. Like it was a means to an end. Like we worked our way through. We split blocks, developed house, like whatever. But we lived in some houses that were just like had no natural light, like terrible layouts. Like
you got to ask yourself, how did that ever get built?
But
because there was architects
lives
back then. There was people who did it back then.
But I've seen how it affected our lives. Like we lived in so many houses that we just didn't have people over. Yeah. We didn't connect with friends and family. Like we just there was nowhere to do it. And if we did, it was so uncomfortable and awkward that it gave us anxiety. It made the situation stressful. And I don't know. I'm such a huge fan now that you spend the money, work with designers and architects that pull you apart and figure out your lifestyle and your hobbies and your interests and your everything.
Your behaviours.
Yeah.
Your behaviours. And somewhat predict the future of your behaviours as well.
Yeah.
Work with you to find those. Because when you do it, and if you've got a builder that understands it as well, the magic is it's incredible.
It is magic. And the only way I can explain it is now, like the amount of finished homes now that we hand over and the clients are in tears.
Yeah.
it means
Yeah.
it's success.
That's everything. Yeah.
Like the designer, the architect's done an incredible job. We've done an incredible job, and they can enjoy their life living in a home that suits them.
I have this thing where I had recently, about, I don't know, 8 months ago, had a builder. Well, I actually got something come through on the email, and it was a house I'd designed, and it was a renovation, and it was being done. And I don't know that I was meant to get the email. And we don't do any construction administration or contract administration. We stay in touch with the builder through the process. But the builder's a builder, he's building it. We shouldn't have to be there. Renovations, we might get called more often. You know, there might be things that we need to detail along the way, whether it's a reno or a new build or something they're unsure of. So there's always a conversation, but we don't need to be there telling you how to put nails in. You know, that's long gone. We should never be in partnership with, well, I can never be in partnership with somebody that I have to do that with, because I don't know how to do your job, not in the slightest.
But it's a trust thing as well. Like you're obviously working with builders that you trust to do.
Generally, yeah. My story's not going to show that. So in this particular house, a renovation, the whole upstairs floor is being renewed, whole new roof on the house, and downstairs is being reconfigured. And there's a central stairwell that you come into the house through the front door, and the front door swings over on one side, and you look in through the glass of the front door, and you can actually see a staircase going up. And it's brick surround on 3 sides, but we're taking down one side. So we're going to take down the right-hand side if you're looking at it from coming in the home. And when you come in, I've got you coming in, I've got the door swinging across so it opens to the left. And there's a reason for that, the way you come in from the street and stuff, the door's swinging away from you. And it means that if you're opening the door to me, you're also standing in the way of me. So it's your choice whether you let me in or not. I've got to come through you, or you've got to step aside. When I do come in, I start my stairs on my right-hand side, and I'm going up a platform and then up, and I land on the left-hand side at the top. On the right-hand side at the top of the stairs, if you were looking in the same plan, would be the kitchen, and on the left-hand side would actually be the main bedroom and the whole living room. So I'm going to land you beside the main bedroom door. There's only one bedroom upstairs. I'm going to land you there, and I'm going to have you walking into where the living room really starts. In front of you will be the dining, and it's seaside property, you know, beautiful at the beach, big views, and then you'll transition either around to the kitchen or into the living area. And as you're going in, I've also put a skylight, but it's on an angle, so it only lets, I don't want any direct skylight light coming in, don't want direct sunlight, so it's actually angling to the south. And I know that means I'm weather protected from the east, where I'm going to get a howling gale in from the beach. I still will get southerly winds, so I've got to be a little bit careful. So I've got some louvers up there, and this is going to be the chimney that breathes the whole house. Yeah. So I've designed the whole house to breathe out this hole if I need it. So we don't have a high reliance on any air conditioning. In fact, we don't have any air conditioning. Yeah. So we've designed it not to be air conditioned. And I see this plan come through, and I'm like, why has there been an update to my plan? That's the first thought that I'm going through. I have a quick look over it, and there's a note about the staircase. I go, they've turned the staircase around. And when we're in the downstairs, and I said the staircase starts on the right, that downstairs side on the right-hand side of it is a room, and then there's a semi-subterranean garage room beside that. So very low light coming from my right-hand side. I have most of my light coming in from the left-hand side. So in my design, I've swung the door this way so that it gives you gentle ease in. You go up the stairs, around at the top. As you go up, you go past a screen. I've taken down the brick wall, and you go past a screen. I've got a skylight pouring light in from the top, which is helping light the room on the right-hand side. Downstairs, where I need the light. I've got tons of light upstairs. Downstairs, I need the light. Builders turned the stairs around. And I'm like, why? And I lost my shit on it. I had to ring and apologise afterwards, because I really lost my shit. I said some very unprofessional things.
But, mate, that's very unprofessional of the builder.
100%.
And this thing, I believe this happens all the time. And I believe this is why architects, designers have a touchy relationship with builders. Because builders stick their nose in where it shouldn't be stuck in.
Well, if he'd rung me, because when I got to the bottom of it, after I apologised, talked about copyright and what a prick he was and all the rest. And this is a company that I'd given, I think, about $9 million worth of work in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying that's a lot of money. I'm just saying it deserves at least a level of communication.
Exactly.
And when I said to him, so why did you do it? He said, well, it made it easier for me for the opening on the other side that took you into 2 bedrooms. And I'm like, right, what did it make easier? And it got down to he could leave one row of bricks and not have to put another lintel in. And I'm like, you know what? Do you know what you lost in doing this? Because he'd gone to the client, he'd passed it through with the client, got client sign off as well.
And this is why it needs to be client, builder, designer, collaboration before contract.
Absolutely. I said, do you understand what you just took off our client, my client, and your client? Do you realize what you've taken away from them? No. I said, why would have I changed the staircase? Because the original run of the staircase went the other way, didn't it? Yeah, it did. Yep. I said, why would I go to the point of changing it? Because I'm egotistical? Because I'm a dickhead? Tell me why. Well, for what reason would I do it? Oh, I've got no idea. I said, so why didn't you ask me? Oh, well, yeah, probably should have. And I'm like, because, mate, it gives me light from up there to put in there. Yep. But now we've lost all that light because that's going to be under the stair treads,
not in the open space. They're going to finish that job. The client's going to move in and go, shit, this room's dark down here. Like, why?
We'll leave the light on, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we could have solved that problem, not maybe totally, but made it better by following the design thinking right from which way did the door swing when we came through the front door. What was the journey?
Mate, there's so many things wrong there. Like that, he's priced your drawings the way they were anyway.
Yep.
So the fact that he's changing them after he's won the job.
Don't go there.
Like anyway, there's so much going on there. But look, for all the builders out there listening, bloody pull your head in. Seriously.
Just have a conversation.
Communicate. But we're not designers. We're not architects. We're there to build.
And we're not builders.
You guys do your job. You put lines on paper for a reason.
Yep.
And that's something I've really learnt by having a process where I'm involved. Like you guys... I
want you to challenge what I put on the paper if you see something. I don't want you to take it that I've got it right. I want you to challenge it.
But I love being at the design meetings. Like, the design meeting I was at this morning, I love sitting with Aaron or Jason or Chris or whoever we're working with, and I love them because Aaron's very good at he'll sit with the clients when he's presenting drawings and he'll explain that story you just told. He'll say so we've put the entry here, so you come up here and this will let natural light in there. He goes through it, so I know.
Yeah.
So I understand the plans.
Then you're part of the story.
Yeah.
And then you go, can I improve the story? That's the next thing that happens. So when I get working with a great builder, the builder will say to me, you know how you were doing that? If I did this up there, you'd get more of this here. Do you want more?
Oh, mate, I'm
and
always...
I go, oh.
I'm always the handbrake, mate. I'm at the meetings going, that's going to cost more.
Well, this is another thing I like saying to a client. I'm going to argue for their budget harder than they will. They'll argue to spend more, even though they don't know it's costing them more.
Yeah.
They'll ask for more and I'll be telling them to take less, always. But we do this through discovery. You know what? Go right back to what I said at the start with. If your dream isn't bigger than your budget, then start dreaming, get a better dream. We want to take you down a journey where you discover your dream and then give you enough information to make considered choices about which is the most valuable part of that dream to execute.
Yeah.
What's the thing that you don't want or do want? We'll get people to say, hey, this massive laundry and, we want this and it and that and it and all these things. And I go, oh, we've just spent, probably $10,000 a square meter on this great big space.
Yeah.
How many loads of laundry do you do a day? Oh, so you do your laundry 4 times a week. Yeah, okay. And we're going to compromise your ensuite? How many showers do you have a day? And I'm going, rather than taking it from there, where can we take it from? Where can we be more practical?
You're getting them to think about what they're doing, but many people have seen something in a book or Instagram or a house photo or something, and they love it, but they don't consider how they live.
Well, here's another thing with that just fascinates the crap out of me. Do you think that $2,000 a square meter homes end up in those magazines you buy? Get a reality check.
I've never thought about that, but as soon as you said that, I was like, holy shit. So we get every client that comes to us wants a $3,000 a square meter home, but they're showing us
$10,000 a square meter book
photos. Yeah. Show us your inspiration. Yeah.
And this is the thing, and I will often go with a client. I'll go, oh yeah, look at that floor. That's a real oak floor, and it's not pre-finished. That's been sanded in place. And they'll go, how do you know? I say, well, I can't see the micro line of light. I'm also careful about how much I tell them.
Yeah.
because I don't want them to get caught on the wrong thing. But I'll go, those oak boards are X wide, that's an expensive floor. Oh, that stone bench, yeah, that's exotic price stone. That waterfall end, yeah, that's another few $1,000s of stone, plus the finishing, plus the fitting. That kitchen cabinetry, yeah, right. No, that's all natural wood. Yeah, no, I can tell that's natural wood. That's not a laminate. That's not a $50,000 kitchen. That's a $100,000 kitchen.
Yeah.
And break the photo down for them so they see and then try and get a sense of their value of what each piece of it means.
Yeah.
And I'll take a picture and I'll draw on it or pull a line across it and go, so that window that went all the way to the ceiling line, that's going to cost you considerably more than the one that has a head across it because of the way the builder's going to have to build it. Or you want me to drop it below the floor so it looks like the floor just floats into nothing? Yeah, that's going to cost a few more bucks than if it's got a frame around it down on the floor. At what point does it matter to you? Where does it matter? Where does it change the emotion?
Well, that's where
and
it all
feel?
Comes back to what you got to educate them so they can tell you what they see value in. But mate, your passion for this is incredible. Like I could sit here all night and chat your ear off. But before we finish up, I'm really keen to know more about like you do. So you've got your own podcast.
Yep. Talk Design.
Your biggest, Talk Design. Your biggest audience is in the States.
Yep.
But you do tell our listeners about these tours you do. I'm actually really keen to come on one. I think you'd be an absolute hoot to
put one together.
I think we could have a really cracking time, mate.
I started out going. I'm a great believer. I love traveling. That's one thing, but that's beside the point. I'm a workaholic. When you're a designer, I mean, shit's easy. You can think of designing things constantly, and really all you do is put them on paper at some point. So it's very inspirational to go and see and be in other places, especially if you're prepared to challenge your creative mind. And I'll give you the example of this. I used to work as a fashion designer, and as a fashion designer, I'd get some young, intern who would come in, and I'd go, I don't know, Walter the dog. I'd say, take Walter, and I want Walter to become a evening gown, shoes, a handbag, and a headpiece. Walter's the inspiration. I want to know when I see it that I see Walter. I want to see all the things that Walter inspires you. It might be his movement, might be the fact he's gone quiet now, it might be the colour of his tongue, it might be the way his fur shines, it might be the movement, the sleekness of him, any of these things. I want to see that. Now draw me those items. And people go, what? You go, yeah. Well, what is it, a dress? Oh, I don't know. Ask Walter. Let Walter be your guide in this.
Yeah.
And so this is how I'd set them up. To think freely, yeah?
Yeah.
So when you approach a piece of land in the same sense, you look at the land and you look at the topography and you look at the way the trees are and the shapes and forms, the way the clouds might sit and stuff, and you go, what's this telling me about architecture? What's it delivering to me? And so traveling, you get to see monumental pieces of architecture, you get to see, statements of architecture, all these things, but you also get to go to places. And often wineries would be a good example of this, where they fit within a landscape. They're designed to be of the landscape, not on the landscape, and there's different times for different things. So traveling and doing that is really fun, and being able to do it and dissect it and learn from it and see, for instance, when I say it's of the landscape, which way is that building collecting the light? Where's it collecting the breezes from? Where's it protecting from? How's it nestling in? How's it telling another story that we can't automatically see? What's our subconscious seeing that makes it feel right that we haven't dissected yet? So I've always had a high value on travel as an education piece. And in doing that, I started going, let's go to some really cool places and let's look at architecture because it will make me a better design. That was it. How can I be better to do a better job for the people who are crazy enough to trust me to draw those pictures for their house, that are crazy enough to trust you to spend millions of dollars to build it?
Yeah.
How can I do my job better? And anyway, a few years back, maybe about 8 or 10 years back, I was traveling with my best buddy, and we'd escaped Australia, and we went to Los Angeles, and we're in Los Angeles, and we're talking to a friend, and a few months before I'd pulled out this thing on Austin, Texas, out of a Qantas flight mag or something. I've been going home to New Zealand to see my family or something. And I said to him, why don't we go to Austin? You know, it's full of music and it's full of like really cool stuff. It's a bit of a tech town. It's not very big. It's about 1 million or so people, but it's going off. Why don't we go and check it out? It'd be fun to go there. I'd been there once many years before, didn't really remember it that well. And so in Los Angeles, we're chatting to some people we know that are in Los Angeles, and they say, oh, if you're going to Austin, go and see this friend of ours. Get them on the phone, hooked us up. And we said, yeah, we are going, you know, we'll go. And we get to Austin, and anyway, this friend of theirs, we go and catch up with him, and he turns into a firm friend. We're going through this whole process of being in Austin, and I end up must have been about the third day, seeing that there was this homes tour, at the AIA Austin Homes Tour. And it's the weekend that we've left.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So I found out 3 things at that point. In Austin, they were the only space in America to have a Formula One race, quite like Formula One and fast cars. Number 2, they had Austin City Limits, which is a TV show, it's the longest running music television show in the world, but they also had a 3-day festival on 2 weekends. With everybody thinks it's about country music. Yes, there is some country music, but it's not all country music, trust me. It's all kinds of bands. I've seen Jay-Z there and all sorts of people at that. And on one weekend, they have an architectural tour. So in 3 weekends, so you can fly in on a Thursday, be at the concert on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, recover through the week or go somewhere else. The next weekend be back. They also had a surf park right by this Formula One track. Anyway, that's close now. So you could go surfing as well. But then you could go to the Formula One Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So from practice to qualifying to race day for about $190 US.
Yeah.
So cheap as chips. Also came with that was concerts. I've seen Bruno Mars. I've seen Stevie Wonder. That's part of your ticket to get in.
Yeah.
So I'm going, damn, this thing's good. And then you can do your highbrow work trip stuff where you go and look at all these homes. Anywhere between 9 and 14 homes that are exceptional get opened, and over 5,000 people come through each home each weekend.
Yeah, right.
And they just do it on 1 weekend a year. So I'm like, I'm coming back next year. I'm doing the trifecta. I'm going to Austin City Limits. My wife is like, you're going to a concert? I said, yeah, it's like festival. She's like, would you grow up? No. Just in case you ever listen to this, honey. No, I won't. Going to do the concert.
Mate, it sounds like an absolute blast. Like, I'm there.
Going to go to the Formula One, and I'm going to do the homes tour. And that will give me 3 weekends. I can just squeak home after that and only have been away just over 2.5 weeks. And then in the meantime, you can go and experience a whole lot of stuff. I've been up to Nashville. I've been to all sorts of places. I've been to Virginia, gone and watched some, NASCAR racing, stuff like that. Yeah. There's lots of other things you can do. But just to immerse yourself in just even the architecture side. So take Austin, Texas, climate zone, same as 7 other climate zones in Australia. High net worth individuals live in Austin. It's a very wealthy town. It's a tech town. It's only about 1 million people, bit more. It's got lakes. It's got amazing architecture, and you can engage with it really easily. There's tons of other places I go in America as well, but just this is what kicked it off. And I go back with my best buddy again, of course. He's the only one crazy enough to do it with me. And we go on this homes tour, and I'm walking around the homes tour with him. And now he's nothing to do with architecture, but he loves architecture. And the two of us are wandering around in these homes. And as we're wandering around, we're talking about features. We're going, how do you think they constructed that? You're not allowed to take photographs, so I'm sketching crazily. How do you think they did that? Oh, far out. Check out how that works. That's a really nice line. That's beautiful. Oh, yeah, well, that gives this engages this, conversations we're having. We'd end up with people following us. They'd follow us from house to house. They'd say to us, which house are you going to next? We want to be there when you're going around. Because they were getting an education in what we were doing or talking about. And so that's what clicked it into gear. And then I spoke to the AIA in Austin and said, hey, could we bring people to this? They were like, hell yeah. Yeah. And from that, I mean, I don't know whether any of you watched the your viewers watch the Build Show with Matt Reisinger.
Yeah, mate, I try and watch as much as I can.
Yep.
I'm a big fan.
Big fan of Matt.
Yeah.
So I've met Matt. He's on my podcast. Should get him on yours. Again, really interesting. These people are super, super passionate about what they do and creating better homes and better environments for people. And through those things, you're meeting the architects, the builders. You're getting to have conversations about how and why, and you're educating yourself. You're growing in every moment of it.
Yeah.
That's what got me doing it. And then I went, I'm like the bloody Pied Piper. I've got rats following me around in these homes. And I said to the AIA guys, and they said, sure. And so then I started inviting people and say, it'll cost you to come. And we're not going to put everything on for you, but we'll create the itinerary, get you to the houses, whatever. And we've had Americans that have come, we've had Australians that were going to come and pulled out at the last minute, family reasons or couple of other reasons. One was illness. But yeah, we go anyway. I go anyway. My buddy Kaz doesn't always go, but we go, and I will get them in with builders and architects so that they can sit and talk.
Next year, let's get it happening. Shay, we're doing a road trip.
It's so valuable. You learn so much from getting out of your comfort zone, and you just grow from it.
Yeah.
And the same with my podcast, same story. I'm sitting there going, how do I learn more?
Yeah, mate, it's huge, and I think there's a lot of value in doing that type of stuff and walking around different buildings with different people and learning from other builders, learning from other designers, and again, it's all about growing your knowledge. Like to me, knowledge is power.
Yeah, and also it empowers you to empower your client to have a better house, to have a better life. We do another one where we go to Falling Water.
Yeah.
Up in Pennsylvania, and if you can get a Steelers game in at the same time, that's something else. But you go into Pittsburgh, and then from Pittsburgh you go out to Falling Water, and Falling Water there's another place out there called Polymouth Park, which has a whole lot of Frank Lloyd Wright's apprentices' houses and a couple of his on them. You can stay in them overnight.
Oh, mate, that'd be unreal.
There's another one called Kentuck Knob, which is in the same zone. You're about 60, 70 miles out of town.
Yeah.
There's a creek you can whitewater river raft on if you want. You do all those things. Go back to Pittsburgh. You might get a Steelers game. If you're an Andy Warhol fan of his art, it's the birthplace of Andy Warhol. You go to his museum, and you've dropped into the town in America with the most steel bridges over any other town, because that's why it's called the Steelers.
Yeah.
It was one of the most wealthy towns in America when Dale Carnegie put all the steel Andrew Carnegie. Which one? Andrew Carnegie put all the steel mills together and created American steel.
Yeah, right.
So it was a super wealthy town. The Craftmans own the house in Palm Springs that everybody sees in the Aaron Slim's photos, and they own Falling Water. They were a department store owners in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, mate. Well,
so there's so many cool things to go and do, really cool.
We need to book it in and get that one sorted. But look, we're going to have to get you back for another episode, because seriously, we definitely could talk.
We made 3.
But yeah, look, I love your passion. I love your purpose and everything you're doing. Like there's so much more we can talk about, but we're definitely going to have to get you back for another one, mate. Really appreciate your time. You've driven down from the Sunshine Coast this afternoon. Appreciate you bringing the scotch. That's been a nice touch as we've been going, and yeah, mate, we're going to have to do a lot more together, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you. I want to have you on my podcast, but also have a bigger understanding of what you do with the pack process, how we access pack process builders, how we get our builders that we work with to get on the pack process so that we can be empowered to give our clients the best possible thing, because everything I see about what you're doing gives us the power to do a better job.
Yeah, well, mate, the pack, just very quickly before we wrap it up, so the pack process it's a small part of what Live Like Build does. It's an online course. People can purchase it and do it in their own time. But basically, once they've listened to, so it's all recorded, they actually have to pass a test.
Perfect.
So, and the way we set it up is the test, if they do it and fail, it actually times out. So they actually have to, I'm not sure on the time frame, it might be 72 hours before they can redo it again. So you can't just fail it and then think, I'll go back in and do it again later. Yeah, so once you've gone through, you've passed the test, then we ask you to send you all your business details, and you actually get set up on a pack trained page on our website. So the worst part is we've actually had so many builders go through and do the process, and they haven't sent us our information, so we haven't got them all on our website. So it's growing. But yeah, look, I encourage all builders to do it. It's an incredible process. It adds so much value to your client and to the people you're working with. And it's just to me, it's a no-brainer.
I look at it from my point of view and I go, if this means that the client and myself can go through this process with a sense of surety of cost and finishes that we're going to get from it, why would I want to be anywhere else?
Yeah, look, it's every builder's going to do it slightly different.
Yep.
Like it's all lined out. It's a graph. Like one of the main reasons we have so much success with it is we've actually documented in a way that you can lay it in front of your client and say, we actually need to go through all these steps to get you from your inquiry to signing a building contract. And it's in front of them. They can see it. But, mate, we'll have to come back and chat some more. We'll wrap it up now. I'm not sure how long we're going for, but
a while.
Mate, I could definitely I want to sit beside you on the plane to this trip because I think we could talk for the whole 18 hours.
Go and have fun. Yeah, we will. We'll book one in, and look, let's open it up to your team of people and say who wants to come.
Yeah, so look, anyone.
We take very limited numbers. We might be, 5 or 6 or something like that, or maybe 8.
Yeah. Well, let's put it out there. If anyone's listening and wants to get involved
get in touch
2024, let's get in touch and we'll talk to you and we'll get something organised.
Whether they want to go to do something that's at Falling Water or something Palm Springs.
Oh, mate, we'll make it fun. We'll make it building, design, car racing, concerts. It's going to be
music, barbecue, ribs, everything. Yeah, no, I'm on for it, man. 100%.
Right. Cheers, mate. Thanks for coming in.
Cheers, thank you.
Are you ready to build smarter, live better, and enjoy life? Then head over to livelikebuild.com/elevate to get started.
Everything discussed during the Level Up podcast with me, Dwayne Pearce, is based solely on my own personal experiences and those experiences of my guests. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. We recommend that you obtain your own professional advice in respect to the topics discussed during this podcast.